What's up? This is Michelle.
And this is Alondra. It's another late night.
It's another late night.
For sure, for sure.
Whoops.
So a lot to talk about.
Yep.
And you know what? I want to really, since this kind of came up today, so I really want to talk about Will Smith's apology. And I know that you haven't seen it, and it was about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it was almost like interview style. Like, I don't know how it came about, but they basically asked Will a question, basically like, about the slap and then if Jada had anything to do with it. One of the things that he did apologize to. So let me preface this. Chris Rock, Will Smith said he reached out to Chris Rock's camp to talk to him personally. And Chris Rock said that he was not ready to sit down and talk. And basically, he's going to reach out to him when he's ready.
Hmm.
I thought that was kind of interesting because honestly, I probably wouldn't accept his apology either. I don't know if I'd be ready to meet. Like I think in my heart I probably would forgive that person for doing what they did, but I think the biggest thing for me, to be honest, is that the point that you get up and hit me, we're in a professional setting. This is my job. I got
Yeah.
paid to be an award show.
In front
He
of
had to maintain
all those people too.
a
TV.
certain yeah, exactly. TV had to maintain a certain level of professionalism, and not only did it impact how people viewed Chris, but also how people viewed Will.
Mhm.
So he said he kind of apologized for that. He also apologized for the people who were around him during the award ceremony because it really ruined. Somebody else was going to get an award, I believe, it was Questlove, and he apologized to him. He also apologized to Chris's mom. And apparently, Will Smith had a relationship with Chris's brother. Not remembering what Chris's brother's name, but he said, "Hey, we had a relationship, and now that's it's irreparable, like it's damaged."
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that took a lot of effort. That slap took a lot of effort. I mean, he had to walk all the way on stage, right? So typically when we're mad, our emotions only stay for typically 90 seconds. Like, and beyond
Hmm.
that 90 seconds, you have to really put effort into keeping that emotion. So to keep the emotion that long to walk on stage, I don't know. I just felt like there was more to that than this spontaneous slap.
So Jada had I think went on a date with Chris Rock back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. And because they've
Oh,
been
what?
around Hollywood for a long time. But I
Yeah.
don't think that was it. Ever since then, now
Mm-mm.
I'm not saying it was right to hit anybody, so I'm going to preface that. I'm just talking about the history behind 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 the relate that there is a relationship there between Chris and Jada, and it hasn't always been the most amicable.
Mhm.
So to your point on we only keep our anger for X number of time, and it took a long effort for him to get up there and climb. One of the questions that they did ask him when Jada rolled her eyes, did that signal him to do something? And he said no, that nothing that she did had anything to do with him. And I see what you're coming at because I feel the exact same way. Like
I
you
feel it was kind
you
of set
think that
up.
there's not exactly. I feel that she um I don't know if she wanted him to do that. I don't know. I will say this. I do think that Will and Jada have a complicated relationship.
That's
I think
to
the
put it lightly. Yeah.
I think the relationship is fairly toxic and codependent. And the reason I say this is because she's always been pining. If you know the history of Jada and Tupac Shakur, she's always kind of romanticized that relationship, even though they didn't really have a romantic relationship. She has her daughter saying that she wishes Tupac was alive, which I think is bizarre. How could you influence your kid that much?
Hmm.
And then, two, now again, this is all alleged. And then, two, allegedly, um, she's just I mean, well, I guess the affair isn't really alleged. She came out and said that they had the affair. So then she had
She
that
had an
affair.
entanglement.
entanglement. Then she had the entanglement with I got August. She had the entanglement
Hmm.
with August, which she didn't really want to talk about. It was August that brought that forward. They say that allegedly Will and Jada have an open relationship. But I think she's the one that's calling the shots. I think he's just going along for the ride.
Hmm.
I'm not sure they're 100% aligned. And for
Yeah.
some reason, I feel that she knows how to play him like a violent, like, I think she feeds into those insecurities. And in a way, in my opinion, and granted, nobody manipulates a 53-year-old man, but I think if you know somebody's weaknesses, you're able to manipulate them to do what you want without, even to your point, having to say anything. Because the moment she looked at him, because I thing. He just didn't know what that something was, and in his mind, he thought, "Well, I'm going to have to go defend my wife." Now, one of the things that people are saying, one of the said he did this is because he was playing King Lear, and that's Venus and Serena's dad, and that King Lear would have done that to defend his family, which I don't necessarily think that. I think that
Mm.
a theory that they're saying, well, he feels like he was like,
Oh, you're cutting out. I think I lost you.
am I on?
Yeah, there we go. Way
Okay.
back.
Oh, we're back. It's technical
Technical
difficulties
difficulties with internet living in a
with
small town.
for sure. So, going back to Jada and their complex relationship. So, the entanglement issue. So, if you look at their relationship, it seems to me that she's been humiliating him the whole time, either publicly. Obviously, if it's publicly, it's going to be privately. Now, was she forced to
Mhm.
talk about August? Yes and no. Like, she could have just denied the whole thing. And instead she put him on the red table and had a conversation about her entanglement, which I know, even though he says is over it, if you have an intimate relationship with someone, that is a difficult conversation to have. It is
Yeah.
a hurtful conversation to have. And
Mm.
I don't know if I'd be able to have that conversation with my significant other if I chose to forgive them.
Yeah, especially with the way that she like talks about stuff. She's very condescending when she talks to him and like
Yeah.
kind of just blows what went on, just kind of like, nah, it is what it is, it happened, blah blah blah. Like kind of downplaying it.
Yeah, like she makes it seem like it was a growth move. Like, oh yes, we were just, I grew from it and I learned and all of these like, I don't know, kind of like
I don't
weird.
I don't believe her. Like she seems like a narcissist.
And I think she's manipulative. And he has not been able to break free from that relationship, which is why at 53, because let's not forget, he's in his 50s,
Yeah.
a man decided to go up and strike another man. Now, would he have done it if it was I don't know. Would he be done if it was like, let's see, another comedian, Charlie Murphy? I mean, rest his peace. Maybe that's a bad example, but like
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy or somebody that was more, you
That would
know,
smack the fuck out of him back.
exactly, exactly. Would he have done it?
Yeah.
I honestly don't think so. Now,
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's weird too, right? Because he's a comedian too.
uh, and for him to say that, to reacted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. So honestly, I don't think she loves him. I mean, those are my thoughts.
Hmm.
I don't think she does because the way she treats him is not. Now, granted, this is what they show the public, but
Hmm.
honestly, if that's what you show the public and you're supposed to be in love with your husband, I can't even imagine what the atrociousness that's going on behind closed doors.
Yep.
So with that said, I don't believe that she loves him, because if a person loved you, they wouldn't allow you to do those things. or put you through what she has put him through. So he apologized. I agree with Chris Rock. I don't necessarily think that I would take his apology. I would do it when I'm ready.
Yeah.
And at this point, he's really apologizing to the general public, not necessarily, I don't think, apologizing to Chris,
Yeah.
because
I don't know.
Chris is not
We
having
could
it.
go pretty deep in that rabbit hole of like what really happened. Like Illuminati stuff and like his moment of shame and all of
Do you
that.
think that was it though? So here's the thing. Let's touch the surface, 'cause I don't know if there's an Illuminati or not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
nobody truly
Nobody
knows,
knows.
right? There's
What
no
I
proof.
There's no proof. But what I have heard coming from like YouTubers and people who are on TikTok that I've watched, allegedly, to me it makes sense. There is a group of people that are into some very, very dark things, and it makes
Yes,
absolute sense. And let me tell
who
you
run
why I feel
Hollywood.
it makes
Yeah.
let me tell you why it makes absolute sense. Let's just say that Hollywood is a big high school, right? And there's in that high school, there's people that are into country music, there's goth kids, there's people that are into whatever you tickle your fancy. There's always a group of people. The thing is that in high school, it's more obvious, right? Because children or young people dress according to what they like at the time.
Hmm.
So if you take that and then you kind of put it in Hollywood, which is technically a bit high school, there's going to be people that are not into any of that, but there's always going to be a small group of people that are going to be into some really dark, weird stuff. And I think
Yeah,
it's a small group of people that are in
that's all
some dark, really,
humans.
yeah, all humans. So, but yeah, but I'm just relating it to high school. So, with that said, there's going to be a group of that population within that little insular group, because I don't even think there's more than 1,000, maybe 2,000, 3,000 people in the entertainment industry, and I don't even think
That are like big names.
that are big names. Probably less than that. If you're talking about big names, we're talking maybe 1,000 people, if that.
Yeah,
Like if we're talking about, then we're talking
like
big
A
names,
list,
and even then, A list maybe not even
some B list.
maybe some B list, yeah. But if we're talking about A list, like the only I just think, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, um,
The Rock,
The
uh,
Rock,
Will Smith. I would
Will
call Will Smith
Smith.
an A list. A
Yeah,
list.
for sure.
Kevin
A-lister.
Hart.
Kevin
Uh,
Hart.
yeah. I mean,
What
all
is
the
the
big
other?
people. Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
Like
Johnny Depp.
all your super celebs.
Exactly. All your super celebs, which like we can't even sit down and name 10 of them. Like I guess we could if we really tried hard,
Yeah.
but I mean it was even like it was so I think it's a very small group of people that are into some very, very dark, weird stuff. And that allowed somebody like Harvey Weinstein and somebody like that gentleman that died,
Epstein.
Epstein,
Yeah.
to have
Well, I
those
mean, that's in
circles.
more than just Hollywood, too, right? Like Epstein
Oh,
was in the science realm and he was in technology. And I mean, some of
oh
the
man,
biggest people in the world that aren't even in Hollywood are
yeah,
connected to
they're
him.
just like
Yeah.
really. Oh, speaking of, now that speaking of Ghislaine Maxwell, so she is going to a minimum security prison in Florida, which I find kind of interesting, given that R. Kelly is probably not going to be put in that institution. Now, both of these people committed atrocious crimes. Both of them.
Mhm.
I would say Ghislaine was probably,
I would say she's worse than him.
I would say, yes. Yes, in terms of how many victims there were, and in terms of she actually took people out of the country. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there you
True
have,
trafficking.
through trafficking, and there you have like the disparity of it. R. Kelly, throw away the key.
Black
Ghislaine,
man, threw him in jail,
exactly.
throw away the key.
Throw
Ghislaine,
away the
white
key.
woman, getting put in a minimum security prison and not
And who knows if she's
just
going to
so
stay
much.
there, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, think about it. Epstein would walk out of jail in Florida. You remember it was like he was only going there on the weekends? So who's to say that she's only gonna serve 2 years, or who's to say she's not gonna be able to walk out on the weekends?
I don't know. I don't know. That's such a weird situation because she's got the little black book. And so that little black book is actually not the flight log. The little black book is actually people who have been to his island.
And I think that's saving her because remember she said she was gonna release those names, but she hasn't.
I don't think that's just her, though. I don't think she can release those names.
Or she said that she was no longer going to protect those people that were in those names, and she said that she was going to release them because she
Hmm.
got put in jail. Well, I mean, I think she's
Yeah.
using
Until
that as
they said,
leverage.
we will kill you.
Yeah. Well, they actually moved her to a they I mean, whoever's in that book took care of her in terms of
Sure.
putting her in a minimum where she's able to. Now, granted, I'm sure it's not it's a minimum security. I
They're
mean,
allowed to do like yoga there and basically go out in the yard and play frisbee, and like it's like being at kind of like a celebrity rehab.
yeah. So I really thought that that was kind of an interesting situation with her. And I mean, we'll see who are we going to know who's, to your point, that black book that has the people who actually went on the island.
Yeah, we're probably never gonna know.
And what's so horrible about this whole situation is, he had all that money, he put it in a trust, and those victims never got a piece of it. Nothing.
Apparently he has another girlfriend who's like, what is she, like a doctor, I think, or something, or
It was like
what
a
is it?
dentist or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a dentist and the trust is
Okay.
like in her name, I think.
Yeah, that's all kinds of bizarre. Yeah, I heard that the trust was in her name.
And I guess Ghislaine can use some too or something.
I don't know what that lady's gonna do. I mean, it
I don't
it
know, it's a
it's
weird.
it's frustrating because of the disparity you see in this country, right? In terms of the type of punishment people receive. On the one hand, you have R. Kelly, who also had a lot of money, who's given a very severe prison sentence. Not that I think he got more years than she did.
He did. But that's
And then,
because she didn't have a list of names to
yeah,
hold captive.
to hold captive, and then she's now, you know, going to some minimum security federal prison, and he's going to be stuck in not a minimum security. Probably is going to have to.
Mm, I think I lost you again.
What's going on?
Yeah. Wi-Fi is a little triggling
As
tonight.
It is. It's not doing so well. And you know what? I asked if this was the best they had, and they're like, "Yeah, that's the best we have."
I
And
know.
gonna have to wait. It's gonna be. I don't know how long I'm gonna have to wait, but who knows when they start doing all those interesting things. Are we on?
Yeah, we are. Yep, yep.
Okay, okay. So we're like, so
It's all
yeah,
good.
so it's interesting how that all played out, and it's pretty. It's do honestly, both of them deserve probably the same punishment. If not her,
She
receives a little.
deserves definitely more.
Yeah,
Because, I mean,
just
she was doing it to basically sell kids to other people,
yeah, yeah.
as to where
And
he was just doing it himself.
it's so funny how these Hollywood kids, they go from once they turn 18, it's like that's it. They're like so ready to sexualize them. Like once they hit 18, I mean, you can see the difference in the way they dress, the difference in the like
Well,
totally,
not even 18.
probably even sooner than that. Your point, you probably have a point. But it's very sad. So they had this one girl, her name's Sweeney. What's her name? Sweeney something. She's on the show Euphoria. What is her name?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen some stuff about her recently, about her complaining about not basically she's living paycheck to paycheck and she's got a net worth of like $4 million or something.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all we had this conversation, didn't we? That's all relative, though, because you can be on paper have a net worth of X amount of money, but if you're
Yeah.
living beyond your means, or if you want to maintain a certain lifestyle, and I didn't really find anything wrong with what she said, because
Yeah,
reality,
she
she's
said she
saying,
owes a bunch of managers and stuff.
exactly. Basically, she's saying, look, with what I'm making as an actor, because you would assume that somebody who's an actor is going to be making crazy amounts of money. She's all like, they're not
They
paying
don't
us what
though.
they used to. No, she's like, we're not getting the residual that we used to get from streaming services. The streaming services, they don't give them the residuals that they used to get. And now everything's streaming. I don't even know a show
Hmm.
that's not on a streaming service, which means that contractually she's not probably getting as much as, like, I don't know if they're getting as much as,
Yeah, it's
like
messed up.
the Friends used to get like tons. And then I think social media has also kind of messed that up a little bit, in a sense that, a brand does not necessarily need to pay somebody like her to get the same reach. You can, probably pay somebody on social media that has 2 million followers, not pay them as much as you would necessarily pay an actor, have organic content, and get the same reach.
Yeah, but I mean, if she's the one in the movie or in the show, you know what I'm saying? Like, they definitely need to be paid for. I don't know, it is a little bit different, right? Because like Friends, for instance, was actually on TV, so you have ratings and like how many people are watching that show at that hour and stuff like that, and how many people are watching that channel. So it's not just about the show, it's also about the channel and how much traffic you're bringing to the channel. And I don't
And
know,
that's
but I
all
mean,
out
I
the
guess you
window.
could do this. There's ways of tracking that stuff though on those platforms, just like, I mean, you can literally, just like TikTok, right? Like you can see how many people have played your video, watched your video, saved your video. You can see all that shit on those platforms too, on
Yeah.
their end. So I mean, there's really no excuse to not be paying these people their money because they're making so much more money now.
Yeah, but unfortunately that's the case, right? So now she says she's getting better ways to negotiate those, but she still has to have brand deals on the side. But one
Sure.
thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, which I found rather interesting in that article, is that her parents basically sold their house out. I think, I don't know, they were out in the Pacific Northwest, to bring her when she was a child to California to pursue acting.
Hmm.
And so she's saying that she has all this pressure and all this stress, of course, because her parents put that pressure and stress on her. And then she said that they couldn't afford, the cost of living was more expensive in California. They couldn't afford a house, so they had to be living in a hotel. So her parents, whose probably dream was to become an actor, because I don't understand how you can put that much pressure on a child, but some of these
Yeah,
parents
I
do
wouldn't.
put that much pressure on a child, and they did. So she knew that she had to hustle. So now she's got all these anxiety attacks and all this stress, because really the livelihood of her family was put on her at such a young age. So when she
Hmm.
says, "Hey, I can't afford to take 6 months off," she probably can't, because she's probably still supporting her mom, probably supporting her dad and her brother
Yeah.
and
Well,
whatever
she's
she
not a
needs.
A-list actor. She's not making that much money doing these
No,
things. Yeah.
no, no. I mean, I didn't even know who she
Like,
was. Like, I
I
know who
didn't
she
either.
was because she's more of a Gen Z, like with the Gen Zs. They know who she is, but even I bet you anything, if I ask my nephews, they don't know who she is. I
Yeah.
mean, they'll probably be like, "Who's she?" "Oh, yeah," but that's about it. So
Yeah.
she said, and basically she's saying, "I can't afford to live the lifestyle I want to live," which makes complete sense. Like, if you want to live the lifestyle, you're gonna have to take side hustles, and her hustle was brand deals. And now I guess hopefully she'll get paid a little better. But I mean, I can't even imagine having that sort of stress as a kid, saying, "Hey, my parents sold everything to come down
Hmm.
here, and now I have to go on auditions to make it happen." And it's so interesting because it's funny because I do I do have a problem with that. Granted, it's not my kid, right? And people will argue, well, that we're just, pursuing. But the fact that you sold everything to come down and
That's a lot
focus
of pressure on the little
completely
kid.
on a child is not necessarily the right thing to do. And then I always thought, well, are they really following the child's dream, or are they following their dream of what they wanted to do and trying
Mhm.
to work vicariously to the child? And it's interesting to me, people that do that to their children.
Yeah, like
And I
dance
also,
moms, cheer moms, like gymnastics moms, like all that, it's,
or we it's insane. And we
yeah,
see it on TikTok too,
yep, yep.
where they're
People literally just using their kids to, yeah. And like they see how many saves they're getting on a video. Like I literally saw this video earlier, and it's just it's completely innocent. The little girl is in the garden eating literally fresh fruit and vegetables that they just picked out of the garden. It's like a tomato and a cucumber, and she's literally just eating them straight from the garden with like her other two little bitty sisters. That video was saved 43,000 times. Like, who is, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would somebody save that video of the little kids eating tomatoes and cucumbers? Most normal people are not going to save that video. They're going to look at it and
no,
go, oh, that's a cute video. And they're going to watch it and they're going
keep
to
on
scroll.
moving
But
on.
creeps are going to
Creeps do
save
that.
that video of that little girl eating that cucumber and fantasize about it. And it's gross.
Creeps.
But that's,
There was exactly. There was this one lady on TikTok that was focusing on that. Like, how are these little pictures of these little kids? Now, at some point, as a parent, like if I were a parent, I'd be like, I don't prefer my children to be on social media like that.
yeah,
But
same.
if the parent still keeps them on there, knowing that they're getting all these likes and all these follows, then you have to think about, okay, parent, like at some point, even though it's innocent enough, but other creeps are looking in there and saving them. I don't know if I want to put my child in that
Atmosphere.
position. Yeah,
Yeah.
in that atmosphere, to be open to that. So, and the one of the ladies, she was reading some of the comments. People were saying, "Oh, she's mature for her age. She's 2.
Yeah.
She's 2." So I do see
Right.
a lot of
Well,
people,
and
or even go ahead.
I definitely could see how, depending on who made that statement and their intention behind it, right? Because you could have a 2-year-old that's talking very well for a 2-year-old, maybe like a 5 or 6-year-old, right? And like you could say, wow, they're mature for their age. But like, are they saying they're mature for their age because of other reasons, right? Like,
Um, and you know what? And there's
yeah,
no way to tell, right? I mean, you can assume positive intent. The other videos that actually also, this is just me personally, bug me, is whenever they like have a little kid and they like throw a piece of cheese on them, or
that, oh, that is so, yeah, I can't stand that.
why would you do that? Like, even though they're little kids, they have a little autonomy. They're little.
Hmm.
They're people. They may not be able to say much,
Right.
but and
Like, would
mentally
you
they
do
might not.
that to somebody else, right? Like, would you do
Yeah,
that to an adult?
absolutely not. To
Would you
adult
do it
who
if they were a teenager?
or would you do it to somebody who has that type of mental capacity? Because in
Hmm.
reality, they're small, but they're not. Their brains aren't fully developed. Would you
Right.
throw a piece of cheese and thinking, "Oh, I had a grandkid, just to throw him a piece of cheese"? And I'm thinking, it bothers me to see that when it's like with little kids when they're just like throwing a piece of cheese on their face, like or throwing something like that. Why is that funny? I don't find it funny.
Yeah. Did you see that video that, I mean, I'm assuming it's viral. It had quite a few, like thousands of comments and likes and stuff, but they literally, he's like, I don't know, probably 3 or 4-year-old little boy, and they shaved literally the top of his head to look like an old man haircut. And like on the sides, it was like buzz cut, but literally it just went like this. And the top, they shaved completely off. And he is holding like this big pot of chili. I mean, it was a big pot. The chili was only probably about this much in there, but the little boy was literally like crying, and he's like, it's heavy, it's heavy. And then they just watch him drop the chili all over the floor after he was crying that it was heavy. And then he just goes hysterically crying because he dropped it now. and he's like 3 or 4 and he doesn't want to disappoint his parents. He doesn't want to spill something. Now he feels like he is incapable. And they literally just sat there and recorded him as a joke and then put it on TikTok.
I've seen people do. Yeah, I did see that video, and I also thought that video was bizarre. I They have these parents putting, or there's this other lady, and it's a cute kid, and he's a good eater, and he likes to eat all these food, and she's always like in this camera in his face, and he says one day, he said, "Not now, mommy," and she's like, "Okay." She says she tries to respect his wishes, but at the same time it's like, why are you filming your every single second of your child's life, or instigating so your kid does something? Okay, you don't want to talk, and then, because it let me tell you something, parents are manipulative. I mean,
Yeah,
heck,
and
parents
kids
are
just want to
manipulative,
please the parents.
and kids just want to please the parents. And for them to say, well, I'm not manipulating him to do everything you want, but yet you have him on
Yep.
this app with the expectation that the child gets thousands of likes and hopefully brand deals and everything that comes with it. In a sense, you're selling your child to the general public in
Yep.
order to make a buck, which I find rather unfortunate. There's one thing about you wanting to present yourself out there, and there's a difference between you presenting a child who has no ability to say no,
Yeah.
and then that just wants to please their parent.
Well, like
So I
they're
do
gonna
feel
have to
really
have a
sad.
career one day, right? Like you're sitting there putting your kid all over online, and one day they're gonna have to get a job somewhere. And if their name pops up on the internet as this company is trying to do searches on them, and it's like, it's just really inconsiderate to me of the child and the child's future, and the fact that children only want to please their parents and they don't want to disappoint them, so they feel like they have to do what their parent tells them to do or is asking them to do. Yeah, it's it's sick, and people don't understand why it's not okay, and that's even more like, you know.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's sad because at this point you have a child here, and the expectation of the parent is the child to have a career, obviously in entertainment, because that's what the goal is. Same thing with this little girl, this lady Sweeney, this young lady from the Euphoria show. Her parents sold absolutely everything to move to Hollywood and pursue her dream at 10.
Yeah,
And then putting all that pressure. Now, there's a big difference. Now, if you're so, for example, there's a big difference. Like, for example, Taylor Swift, she wanted to pursue music at a very young age, but she wasn't supporting her family. Like, her dad was making money. Her dad was helping support that dream, but
right,
it was never Taylor Swift's responsibility to support the house.
right,
And in this
yeah,
situation, you parents sold their house for you to pursue this dream. You're living in a hotel, and
yeah.
that pressure to make money in order to make it all worth it is going to be there. And that's a whole different story, because even with the cheer moms, right, that are supporting their kid even though they're living vicariously. I mean, cheer's expensive. It's not like the kids putting out money to be like that. It's just a different dynamic. So I kind of
But
felt
they're
bad for her.
extreme though. Like they are extreme. If like the cheer and the dance moms, it's not just about like supporting the kid. Like they are so extreme with those kids, because we're not talking about regular cheer. We're talking about the competitive cheer,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, if
Yeah.
you want your kid to be in cheer throughout elementary school through high school, that's one thing. But putting them in competition cheer from the time that they're young, I mean, it's rough because a lot of them are just so like beat them down. Like, oh, you need to do
Yeah.
better. That wasn't good enough. And it's just like, damn, they're 5. Chill out.
And the parents do get upset, and that's even in, like, the basketball games and the baseball games. Like, the parents are mean. I mean, to the point that they don't even talk sometimes to the other team, like the other team moms.
Hmm.
My sister has her kids in basketball, and she's like, she thinks it's bizarre because it's certainly not,
Yeah, like it's just supposed to be a fun sport
for the,
for the
are
kid.
they for the kid, right? And if they're good enough, hey, they make it pro, excuse me. And if
Yeah,
they're
they'll get
not, it
picked up
was
by
just
a
good.
scout.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
if they're not, they had a good time. Because honestly, most of those kids aren't going to be picked up by a scout.
right. Yeah,
It just
like you got to be
depends.
really, really good.
Yeah, got to be really good. So I just thought it was sad that she had to go through. I understand why they got upset. They're like, well, six. She's just saying I have to work all the time. Like I'm not an actor that can take 6 months off.
Yeah,
And we all think that that's what it is, right? Like that you can take 6 months off to a year, or even do like what Cameron Diaz did, where she was like, I mean, they're not doing projects for the years because they have the income from whatever's coming in the movies to just relax and or do passion projects.
yeah. The more that I've learned about being an actor, I'm like, it's not a fun job. Like
No.
everybody thinks it's fun, but the money that you make, pretty much half of it goes to taxes because you're just in a different tax bracket. And then you've got all these other people that you have to pay, right? Like if the Johnny Depp trial told us anything, it told us how Hollywood really works. And it's
Mhm.
like everybody wanting a piece of the pie,
Yeah.
right? You've got all these different people and you've got these different charities that are wanting money, and then just yeah, it's a I don't know, and it's a really got a lot going on behind the scenes with Hollywood.
Yeah. And I wonder, and I'm sure there's people that live within their means in that industry, like aren't like in, in that whole mix. Like who was it? Ryan Reynolds and his wife Blake Lively, they don't live in Hollywood. They live in a small town.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure
cheaper.
that they're nice. Yeah, it's pretty cheaper, and then they can get to their kids have some sort of normalcy,
Hmm.
because you're not going to have paparazzi just for two people in the middle of like nowheresville, right? Or
Yeah,
in a small
right.
town.
Yeah.
So they can have some sort of sense of normalcy, which I always thought it was bizarre. Like if I would have had the opportunity to do that, I don't think I would have stayed in the town like that. I think I would be one of those people that would just like do your job and then just like leave. Kind of like a Sean. No, I guess Sean Penn would be an A-lister, but you know how he's not really in the mix. Like he does things like, because he's always in the mix in other mixes. But like one of those actors. Let me think of somebody that is one of those actors that just kind of. Uh, who would let me think about an actor that that just kind of just did his thing and then just I was having a conversation. Do you remember that kid that voiced the Lion King?
Hmm.
He was in a gosh, what show was it?
Wait, is it Jonathan Taylor Thomas?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, yes,
he was in
yes.
Home Improvement. Yeah,
Yes, 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 yes. I don't know if I had this conversation with you or somebody else.
I don't
And I
think
don't
it
even
was
know if we
you.
had, okay, so we didn't have this conversation. So he was saying if I was gonna be an actor in Hollywood, I would be that kid. And he's all like, I have like I did enough acting, so I have enough money. I'm still getting residuals from Lion King, and I really like I don't have to do much now. Like basically saying I only worked for a certain amount of time. I'm not interested in the
Hmm.
fame. I'm just interested in the money. And once I have that money, I'm out.
Yeah,
Then I
just like something reliable.
Yeah, or like Macaulay Culkin. Like when was the last time he was been in the public eye? He made his money. He does. Now I will not say I do not want to go what Macaulay
Yeah, he
Culkin did.
got messed up by that childhood.
Oh, I'm not saying that that's the way that I would like to go, but right now he he didn't
Yeah,
do
he
anything.
hasn't done much.
No, he says he just kind of does. I think the last time I believe he was on Rogan, and he was like
Mhm.
saying that he just just projects, and it's kind of like living a life of leisure. Which
Yeah,
I think it's one of those things. I think that that's one thing that you would want to do is just, or even like Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz did her stuff, and then she ended up moving to Canada. I think that's where she lived. I don't know if she still lived in California, and just kind of raising her kid.
yeah, yeah. She just has a normal life.
Yeah.
There are a few other actors like that too who were really big, and then who was it? I think Tony Danza, right? Tony Danza was a teacher.
Hmm. Yeah, they just kind of like, I don't know if he went to, did he become a teacher after that show he did?
I
Was it
think
Family?
that's what
No,
he
this is
does
Family.
now.
Oh, really?
I think
Maybe,
that's what it is.
yeah, let's see, maybe, I mean, that's just kind of the way to do it. I feel. Oh gosh, he doesn't look the same at all. Oh, he's 71.
Yeah, he is. He's the
Oh,
teacher.
wow. Yeah, I think that's interesting for sure. Oh, wow. I would have not, like, if you would have told me that was Tony Danza, yeah, now I recognize him, but I have to take a good look at
Oh
him.
shoot! It was so apparently he signed up, I guess, to basically be a teacher for a year at Philadelphia High School, and they made a show around it.
Oh, wow.
Cameras followed Danza as he teaches two sections of 10th grade English at Northeast High School, covering classics such as To Kill a Mockingbird and Shakespeare. Hmm,
That'd be kind of interesting
that's crazy.
to watch, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way to do it. But to your point, I would not want Macaulay Culkin's childhood. That's another childhood where he had the stress of supporting his family, which
Yeah.
I think that's stressful for any kid to have to deal with. Is
Yeah.
having to worry about financially, now I have to support. And he made a lot of money very young, or even like kind of the, now I don't know about the Olsen twins. It's interesting to me. There are very few child actors that did not come out unscathed
Hmm.
from the whole situation. Like
Yeah,
mostly,
especially during that time period.
yeah, and even like most recently, like if you think about Demi Lovato, if you think about Selena Gomez, like
Uh,
the
the
both
girl
of them,
from Cosby, Raven.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you think about, I mean, I think Selena's probably had a stint in rehab, and so is Demi. Let me see. I know Demi Lovato has for
Demi,
sure.
yeah, Demi Lovato. I was just looking through because I read this really good book that it talked about kind of about Hollywood and television, and it was a really good book. And it's Dan Rather's Stories of a Lifetime. Um,
Yes.
that is a really interesting book because it talks about how television worked back in
Hmm.
like the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
And damn, like, damn, it is crazy some of the stuff it talks about in that book. And like
Oh
certain
wow.
shows that they ran and why they had them set up. Because, like, you know how you couldn't say shit in a TV
Yeah.
show like back in the day. And now they can pretty much drop the F bomb on whatever TV show. It doesn't even matter. Um, but yeah, it talks about all that. And like, I think there was the name of the show was, oh goodness, what was the name of the show?
Is the reason they can't drop the F bomb? Is it because they're most of the shows are in like I don't watch TV that's not like, all the television that I watch is on streaming services. So
Mhm.
is that why they're able to say cuss and say things that would normally not be said because it's on streaming services as
Right. Well,
opposed
like,
to,
they can cuss now on regular television
oh really, I haven't
and
seen
pretty
regular
much
television.
say whatever. They could literally drop the F bomb, not crazily, but they could pretty much drop that word at least once in a certain show, depending on how they used it.
Hmm.
But like back in the day, back in the 90s,
Um,
even, you rarely heard somebody say shit or damn on TV. It
no.
was, yeah. But this book talks about that. And when they started feeling comfortable to say certain cuss words, and when they even decided to start even airing shows that had to do with like African American families and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Really crazy. Really crazy. I mean, it just really is eye opening on how shows were looked at and how racist. Like, it's crazy. And why they wouldn't put certain people in shows due to their ethnicity and things like that.
Interesting. Interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, going back, she was in rehab. Selena Gomez was.
Yeah. She's she seems to me like when I watch her videos on TikTok, like she still seems very depressed. Like you can kind of just see it in her eyes, you know?
Well, I mean, she was sick for she had what I
She
don't
has
know if she still
lupus.
has she has lupus, which
Yeah.
I don't is I think it's pain. I think it's very I think it's a
Painful. Yeah.
painful disease to have. So one day you could be fine and then your next day your body you're in pain. And that being in pain impacts your mood, obviously,
Oh yeah.
right? So I think maybe that has something to do with it, not to mention she had some sort of transplant. So she's had some very serious
Yeah, I
health
think
issues.
kidney, right? I think a kidney
Yeah.
transplant.
Yeah, she's had some very serious health issues. So I can see that
Yeah.
impacting. I mean, people die from it. People die
Yeah.
from complications
Right.
from
Yeah.
lupus. So I can't imagine being like one day you're fine and then the next week you're like in total pain. Well, it's got to be very very difficult.
Yeah. Well, and just being a celeb is difficult. You know, you've got so many people that just hate you just to hate you too.
Yeah. I think you really have to have thick skin in order to like really know who you are.
You got to be Kris
So
Jenner.
yeah, she don't
Kris
care.
Jenner don't give a fuck. She's like, "Do you see this
She don't
money?"
care. She didn't care. But again, I mean she never cared. But she knows who she is. Like she doesn't care. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that you're
She's
gonna
like, "Do
say
you
to
see my
her that
bankroll?"
yeah, there's nothing that you're gonna say to her that's gonna make her um be angry or upset.
Yeah.
Like she's about her money. But that's somebody who's like confident within themselves that are not
Right.
gonna let anything impact. And her daughter Kylie's the same way. Kylie doesn't care. She's all like, I don't even bother answering the trolls. It's not worth my
Yeah.
time. Like she knows who like I will say this.
I don't know. I saw a video of, I think it was her and Chris, and I think it was her and Chris and Chloe too, talking about some of the haters and how it does really affect them.
Let me tell you, it wouldn't affect me. I'll
Not
be
Chris, but
yeah, Chris. No,
yeah.
Chris wouldn't affect me. It wouldn't affect me. I think I wouldn't care. Honestly, I wouldn't care. I think I wouldn't
Yeah.
care because you have to know who you like. There's certain people that I know that can hurt my feelings, right? And the people that can hurt my feelings are the people that are closest to me. Those are the opinions that matter to me.
Yeah.
Anybody else's opinion that is just somebody out there in the general public
Who
doesn't
doesn't know
necessarily mean
you?
who
Yeah.
doesn't know me, that doesn't matter to me. But when somebody tells you, knows who you are, then that kind of cuts a little bit deeper, I think, than somebody that's just,
Yeah.
not there.
I don't know. It's gotta be hard sometimes because they literally get thousands of comments, right? Like it's still
Um,
gotta wear at you a little bit having thousands of comments of people just like, "You're ugly, you're trash, you're fake, you're a climate murderer, blah blah blah." Like at
don't
at one point I'm sure you're like, I don't give a fuck because I got billions of dollars. But also, because you are a human, I still think it would affect you having that many comments, you know?
uh, mm, I'm Chris Jenner, girl. I wouldn't. I would be a Chris Jenner. I wouldn't care. Like personally, I wouldn't care. But to your point, it's like you have to you have to be like a Chris Jenner, like not care. I guess if you're feeling down about something, maybe it might get to you, but you're already feeling down on your own.
Mhm.
But be a Chris Jenner. Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't make me. Yeah, if it's somebody that I don't
Yeah, I don't know.
like,
I
which one?
mean, even if I don't know somebody and they tell me I'm ugly, like, I'm kind of like, yeah, I already know I'm ugly. But, like, at the same time, it's like, because you're not going to look good to everybody, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're going to be
yeah, you're
ugly to
not.
somebody no matter how pretty you are.
Yeah, some people aren't gonna find you. There's a lot of people that aren't gonna find you attractive. I
Yeah.
mean, but
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this, I
Um,
think, last time, right? Like the people on
I
My
mean,
600 Pound Life have husbands, so
yeah, like, look, I always think about it this way. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and his illegitimate son. Here you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is married to Maria Shriver, who's a fairly attractive lady.
mhm,
And here's Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has an affair
with their
with
maid.
with their housekeeper, who, I mean, I'm not saying she's not an attractive lady, because she was obviously attractive enough for what I'm saying. It really doesn't matter,
Yeah,
you know.
in
And
the
so,
eye of the beholder.
in the eye of the beholder, and people are weird like that. So sometimes you may look at somebody and like, I remember when I was younger and I used to look at girls and used to see who they were dating and be like, why is he even with her? Like, she's not even that
Yeah.
cute. Because when you're young, you view everything on a very superficial level, and as you get older, you realize, you know, w- what people like or what people are into is kind of weird. Like, you may see a girl and you may not think that she is traditionally beautiful, right? Or what,
Mhm. Yeah.
but that person might have liked the way they smiled, or the way they did this, or the way, or their hair. People are just attracted to different things, weird things that, you know, and now to me, it doesn't, like, it's now, as I got older, I'm just like, I turned like my dad, was like, well, that's who he liked. That's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing more than that. That's who that person decided to be with or decided to date. That's who they liked. And it's not any more complex than that, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the couple on TikTok. Her husband is like really muscular and has like a beard, and then
Hmm.
she's kind of a thicker girl.
Yeah, I've seen
And
them.
yeah, like, and people just dog on them. Like, oh, I don't understand. They've been together, I think, since like high school or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were together before they both looked the way that they look now, you know? So yeah,
And
I
you
don't
know
know.
what? And
People
I
are
have
crazy.
seen that, believe it or not, I've seen that at the gym.
Hmm.
I've seen guys that
Yep.
are like really fit, and then,
The girl is
girl,
thicker,
the girl is thicker. And at the end of the day,
thicker than
that's
a
who
sticker.
exactly. At the end of the day, that's who he wanted to be with. And people, she's addressed that. That lady, that TikTok lady, has addressed that on
Hmm.
her page, on her feed, saying, "Hey, there's girls that." Here's the thing where I think that some people cross the line. I mean, first of all, they cross the line by disrespecting her relationship. But
Yeah.
there was this one lady, she said, that actually started hitting on her husband.
Yeah. A
And I
lot
just
of
think,
people do that.
but why? Like, why would you
It's
disrespect
weird.
somebody like that? Like, trying to disrespect an established relation. Not only that, a marriage, an established relationship, a marriage, and trying to go
Some
out of
women
your
don't
way to
care.
disrespect that relationship.
Some women don't care. They literally just want to see
That's
the world burn when it comes to that. They don't care.
that's pretty low. And I just thought, like, you know, the one thing, trying to come after her husband in front of her face, and like her husband's not like, you know, if he's in love with his wife, he's not going to do anything to ruin that relationship. And in this particular case, he's happy with, that's his best friend, that's his wife, he's happy with her. I don't know why anybody would think that they could come in between that,
I
cuz
know, like they seem super close. Obviously, we only see what they put out there, but I mean, they seem like they're having a lot of fun and like they get along really well. And
yeah, he thinks it's her
yeah,
funny. Good luck trying to break that up. It's not going to happen.
yeah, especially since high school, right? Like they know each other on this like way deeper level. Like they grew up together too, or something like that. I
Yeah, they've
mean,
known each other since they were 14.
they're super close. Like they know everything about each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way. I mean,
Yeah,
anything can happen, right? Because they still have a long ways to go in terms
sure,
of marriage. They're still
this
young,
is true.
but for now, they're completely happy and enamored with themselves. So with them as a couple. So I don't see that going anywhere. But it just amazes me, the level of disrespect that
Yeah,
that people have. that people have.
Yep.
So
So many women find it a challenge when they know somebody's with somebody else, and they'll just harass that person until they get whatever they're after, you know?
why would you do that? Like, why would you do that?
Some
It
women do
always
it.
it always like amazes me. Why would you want to do that to a lady who's happily married? And sometimes they have children too,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
you
think they do.
know?
I think they don't want kids.
No, but I'm saying like there's women that do that to people who have no,
Yeah.
they don't have children, but there's that women that do that to somebody who's happily married with children, and
Yeah.
it's just a sad, people are just sad to go off and do something like that. So it is
Well,
it is interesting, but
we live in a
I
very
mean,
selfish time for sure.
you know what? I agree. I agree. What I've noticed about some of the now recently, some of the Eastern films are more about self-sacrifice. Like if you
Mhm.
watch movies like The Train to Busan, which is like a zombie movie, and at the end of the movie the lead character sacrifices himself obviously to save this young girl for the greater good. I don't think
Hmm.
we've seen that lately where there's like a sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
I'm gonna
that's more
sacri
Eastern culture, right?
exactly, exactly, that you have to, but we live in a very, to your point, very selfish culture, and what I don't care what makes me happy, it's just as long as it makes me happy. If I have to ruin what you have going on, I don't care.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's very sad and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. Like all these Karens out there, right? Like whatever people want to call Karens. But I think everybody, s- like, I use that term kind of lightly, like everybody, but it seems to me there's just so many Karens, right? Like it doesn't even have to be your white woman out ruining stuff. Like people are just attacking people online over, like, what's getting me lately is like cancel culture with like, oh, you're appropriating this culture when somebody's really appreciating the culture. To me, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I saw like some comments on certain things online on TikTok and stuff like, well, you would be upset too if somebody was taking your food and calling it something else. Like, I don't give a fuck what you call the food. Like, it's food. Eat it.
I
To me,
think, yeah, but I think this is a culmination, right? Of
like, you gonna take my macaroni and cheese and call it something else. Like, I don't give a fuck. Take my macaroni and cheese and call it something else.
exactly.
Like,
So I'm gonna from my perspective, I think this is kind of a culmination of what's going on in the Latino culture. We have been disrespected, and I will say this, there was a
sure.
time where we weren't allowed to bring tacos to school. It was before my time, but certainly during
Okay.
my mom's period, they would be made fun of if they brought tacos to eat
Yeah.
to their school. They weren't allowed to speak Spanish. And now you have people coming into their neighborhoods that were historically Hispanic neighborhoods and having to move out because, oh, this is a great neighborhood. Look at the culture, and having to gentrify those neighborhoods. So now
Yeah.
not only do we have a history of oppression where before when we would eat tacos, you were making fun of us. And this is goes
Right.
grandparents because this is and now, oh,
But
okay, everybody's
that's
eating
that time,
tacos.
right? Right.
But
Like, if, like, looking back at school, right? Especially when I was younger, school, and people brought their cultural food from home, people would get made fun of for bringing that cultural food because it smelled different or whatever, right? And yeah, I understand that. But like when you have people who, I don't know, like the lady that made ceviche, did you see that?
yeah,
And she looked it up online to see what ceviche really was, and it didn't supposedly fit what she was making because it talked about using actual seafood and she used shrimp. And so she didn't think it fit into that category, so she called it a salsa instead of calling it ceviche.
yeah.
And like she looked it up, she looked at what the definition was, and so she
So
called it salsa instead.
I blame Mission Tortillas for that because that was a sponsored that was a sponsored post.
Gotcha.
So that was a
Okay.
sponsored post. Mission Tortillas is a Mexican company. So when she said at Mission Tortillas, I knew this post is sponsored. She didn't throw the
Mm,
sponsor under the bus for sure, but
right.
she made this, and then she's all, and I enjoy this with Mission Tortillas. Mission Tortillas was a Mexican company, should have called it out and said, hey, wait a minute, this is
It's
ceviche.
ceviche.
Whoever was marketing to that should have called it out and said that she didn't like, she honestly didn't know, and said that there, and she like apologized.
Yeah.
I think when you take a culmination of what historically has happened to Latinos, because unfortunately that trauma moves from generation to generation, to the
Mhm.
point that we have Latinos now, Mexican Americans, that do not speak, that are second, third, fourth generation, that do not speak Spanish because of those things that were put in place. And if you think about it, it really wasn't that long ago. Like I can
No,
honestly,
no, it's not that
yeah,
long
it
ago.
was
No.
really wasn't that long ago. So now when you have somebody said, "Oh, I'm making spa water," and calling something
Yeah.
that it's not, it's like, okay, now not only are you taking our, or not only are you gentrifying our neighborhoods to the point that we can't even live there, right?
Yeah.
Now you're calling our food something that it's not, and not necessarily saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is an agua fresca recipe, not saying, oh, this is a recipe I made up, and it's so refreshing, and you know how to make it. And now at this point,
See, I didn't
it's,
know that
it's
she was like adding sugar and all this shit to it.
yeah, she
When they were
was adding
saying
sugar.
spa water, I was like, spa water? You literally can get spa water when you go to any spa. Like it's got oranges and cucumbers and some mint thrown in it, but it's not blended up. It's
No, she
literally
blended
just
up.
thrown in there. See, yeah.
She
So
blended it up, and then the
to call
other
that spa
lady,
water, that's not
yeah,
even
she
spa
called.
water. She needs to get it right.
No, it wasn't even spa water, to your point. And she's like mixing it up. The ceviche lady, now I now
Yeah.
I don't know if the post, though I gotta clarify that. I think
But
the
she
post
still
was
called
sponsored
it
by Mission.
salsa. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still in that family. She still tried to get it right. Like she looked up the definition. And it's I don't know, ceviche and salsa and it's still kind of the same thing.
Not really. But okay. I'm gonna get,
Right? Like
now, yeah,
it
not
technically
really.
is just with shrimp added to it. That's all
No,
she added to it.
yeah, but ceviche. Like I
No,
would
yeah,
never
yeah.
say,
Ceviche is ceviche. But what that
yeah,
lady made only had shrimp in it. So to me, if you want to call it anything, it's more closer to shrimp cocktail, right?
well, she didn't have the lime. I would call it ceviche. I would, honestly, I would have called it ceviche. And she said she looked it up. But if she's really truly a foodie, like truly a foodie,
Yeah,
anybody with any like sense of what ceviche was would have known that was ceviche. Like she said, oh, they cooked it with,
yeah.
I'm adding protein, I'm adding cooked fish, but yet when you add raw fish to
Well, she
ceviche, the
added
lemon,
shrimp.
shrimp, you
Yeah,
can add shrimp to ceviche. It just has to be any sort of, it can be fish, it can be shrimp. I've had it with shrimp. If you add the lime juice, it cooks in the lime juice.
right.
So for her to add just the pre-cooked ceviche without putting it in the lime juice and calling it salsa, if
Well,
she
she
was
added
truly,
something in the very end, and to me, it looked like lime juice.
yeah, you add lime juice. Yeah, that's, yeah.
And so
So,
when I saw that, because she read the definition, right, like in the very beginning,
mhm.
and then I was like, okay, because I didn't think she was going to add lime juice to it. I thought she was just going to make it like a pico, right? Like just
Yeah,
the dry
pico. Yeah,
dry products, right, with no
yeah,
juice. Um, but then I saw her add the lime juice, and I was like, okay, but it's just shrimp, So
yeah. So that's
I feel
ceviche,
like it was a
basically.
lot for
Yeah,
people to attack her over that, though, because she didn't call it like something white or something in a different culture, right? She called it salsa as opposed to ceviche, and people are literally
yeah,
attacking her for it.
yeah. They weren't happy. They're not at this point. I think the Mexican American community and the Latino community. And I don't speak for them, but I'm just telling you. I think they're at their wits end. Like they've had it. Like so now any little thing that they can pick out they're gonna like just be like bees on honey on it,
Yeah.
because
But
it's
she
just an
didn't
escalation.
gentrify that though. That's like what I'm getting at, is like she didn't gentrify it. Because salsa is still a Hispanic like thing, right? Like she didn't call it something white like the other girls trying to call the agua fresca
It's supposed to spa
spa
water.
water, right? And then people using all these like white terminology for whatever it is that they created, like the girl with the corn, right?
Mexican corn, which I don't think
The
it was
street corn
yeah,
salad,
Mexican street corn salad.
because
Yeah,
it wasn't hot, it was cold, so she's calling it street corn salad. She didn't make it
she did,
hot. So it's
make
cold,
it
it's
hot.
salad.
You know what got me to the whole thing was her secret ingredient. It's
Yeah.
like, and then I had my secret ingredient. I'm like,
Tahini.
look, dude, it's tahine. Like, you're not gatekeeping anything from us. That's what you normally add to it,
Yeah.
right? The ceviche
But she
lady,
gentrified that. She called it a salad. I
yeah,
swear,
she's
like the
like,
ceviche lady still called it salsa because she
yeah,
thought it
she
was
did.
a salsa. She still kept it within the Hispanic culture. So I don't know. I just
Yeah,
feel like it was a lot to attack her when
you
she
know,
didn't gentrify it. She literally,
you just assume. I mean, I'm gonna assume positive intent with her and not
yeah,
trying to take credit for a recipe that really has been like done historically for years and years and years. Um, give her the benefit of the doubt. And if this post was sponsored by Mission Tortillas, if it was
yeah.
sponsored, I think they should have known better
They
and told her,
definitely
"Hey,
should
wait a
have told
minute."
her what to post, right? Like they should have told her, like,
They review it.
yeah,
If you're a sponsored post, they review it. So
right.
in honesty, they should have said, "You know what? That's really ceviche." Like, you
But
know.
what if, hear me out on this, what if those companies have learned from Kylie Jenner? Because bad publicity is a lot of publicity.
Oh, they got a lot of publicity out of this for sure. They got, depending on who
Exactly.
they're
They got a
they
lot
got
of
a lot of publicity about it.
activity with that post.
And I think, but if you look at Mission Tortillas and how, if you look at their website, they are really trying to Americanize, right? So they're not putting anything that would be
Yeah, well,
technically
their
too,
tortillas, I would not even call Mexican
yeah,
tortillas because
yeah.
they're
But
not
that's,
that good.
yeah, but that's kind of, yeah, but that's what they're known for, right? Their corn and all of those
Yeah,
things. So I think if there was a sponsored post, they should have known better and told her. I
for
think they
sure.
put her in there. But to your point, it's publicity, right? Like everybody's talking about this post of ceviche, and everybody remembers that whole post came from Mison
See, and
Tortillas.
I didn't even realize it was an ad for the tortillas.
Well, because I saw at Mission Tortillas, why I thought this was an ad. Now people are posting things that aren't necessarily ads
Yeah.
to
Well, they
to it.
like she probably tagged them in it,
She
right?
tagged them, so I don't know if she tagged them because it was a sponsored post or it was a sponsored post, because I think she has enough followers for it to be a sponsored post. Like she had
Yeah.
millions, I think. I don't know. I got to go back, but she has a
Maybe
lot of
she's trying
followers.
to get a sponsor, and so she tagged
Who
them.
who knows? But it was like
Yeah,
at Mission. It was like at Mission Tortillas, and then it was almost like it was a sponsored post. It's like, and you enjoy them with this type
mission
of
tortillas.
tortilla chip. So who knows?
Yeah,
But if it was a sponsored post, they should have definitely told her, "Hey, this is really called something else." Or maybe to your point, they did it on purpose and said, "Hey, this will have enough publicity for us to, push like our agenda." But I think but to your point, one thing I have to say about Gen Z, especially that's why, because I keep on teasing these Gen Z Latinas or Latinos are like on a whole different level, like
there's too much
period,
canceling going on of people, right?
period.
Like to
But
me,
it,
I feel there's
but
too much
it's
canceling of just the most random things. Like we should be worrying about canceling politicians right now, and we're literally canceling individuals over them just not making the most bright statement or brightest post. But we've got people out there who really are trying to stifle people's voices.
Well, it's a
and
two-edged
we're not
sword. So
canceling
it's a two,
them.
so the whole cancel culture, to your point, it's a two-edged sword, because one day, um,
Everybody
somebody that,
could be
yeah,
canceled all the
anybody
time.
could be, exactly. And so one of the things that I wanted to mention is, I don't know if you knew that, George Washington University, Clarence Thomas does a seminar I don't know if it's every semester, but he does a seminar. And this year, the students got a petition out to stop Clarence Thomas. Like, they didn't stop, but they had a petition out. They had 11,000 signatures to say that Clarence Thomas not to teach the seminar
Hmm.
this year. And so instead of, he just kind of bowed out and said that he was not going to be available for the seminar that he usually does teach.
Good for him for reading the room.
Yeah, he did read the room, but here's the thing. Again, two-edged sword. Once you start canceling people you
Hmm.
don't want to hear, whether you agree with them or not, there's going to be a point when
Yeah.
you're going to be canceled from that whole political spectrum. And that's the scary part. Now, he read the room. I don't know if the petition actually had anything to do with him. Um,
Sure.
sh-
Sure it did. The
but I'm
college
sure it did.
probably like,
Yeah, the child
yeah.
or the college formally said, "Hey, we don't want that to happen." But that is like, those are one of the things, again, it's a two-edged sword, right? You know?
Everybody says stupid shit at some point,
Yeah.
right? Where you're like, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody has. And
For
so
sure.
if somebody finds that one thing of that stupid shit that you said, they want to cancel you over it, right? Like something you said 20 or 30 years ago and you are a completely different person now, or 15 years ago or 5 years ago even, depending on who you are and how you've grown, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean,
So,
heck, you can probably take an excerpt of what we're saying now,
yeah.
take it completely out of context, just the 5 second, and can't, like, for example, that poor girl Sweeney girl was getting a whole bunch of slack for saying, I can't work
Yeah.
for 6 months, which, if you want to have the lifestyle she has, if she wants to have a lifestyle where she can't work for 6 months, then she has to put in work. And she wasn't really saying anything wrong. She was saying, look, I can't afford to take 6 months off. Since I
Yeah.
can't afford to take 6 months, I got to take these side hustles and brand deals that I may normally not have to take, because it's not like it used to be. Like, I would assume that everybody in acting world is making money hand over fist, but they're
Yeah.
not. And she kind of broke it down. They said, well, she's worth $5 million. Okay, let's just say she's worth $5 million.
Yeah. Like
You
how
can
much
you
is
can
her house worth, or how much is where she's
exactly
living? How much are
exactly.
all the people, right? Like she's also got to pay insurance, and that's health insurance, but then I'm sure there's some kind of actor's insurance that you have to have, and like
Oh, for sure.
all the
You're
things,
you're
you know?
independent. Basically, you're kind of like independent contractors almost, I think, because you have to pay a publicist. All these people that have to be
Yeah.
on your payroll, obviously working with that, with the particular
Managers,
studio
social media
managers,
managers finding you gigs, managers finding you
brand product
brand
deals,
deals, yeah, stuff like that. Like,
all of those things. So, I mean, they were really angry, wanting to jump on board on this poor girl who's really was just saying, hey, I need to get side hustles to get by. Would you have said, if somebody would have told me, hey, Alondra, let's just make it small. Alondra, I can't afford to take 2 weeks off. I'm so busy. I have to work 2 part-time jobs, 3 part-time jobs. It's not.
everybody should understand that right now.
Exactly. Everybody
Yeah.
should understand that. And I don't understand why it ended up being such a big deal. And I don't think she was wrong for saying anything like that.
Not someone
Now,
making that amount of money and having that net worth. Now, if you're looking at somebody like the Jenners, right, and the Kardashians, that's a different thing, as
oh, for
opposed
sure.
to just some normal actor, actress who really isn't making a whole lot per film or per show that they're doing. Maybe they make a couple $1,000s from brand deals, especially someone like her. Um, stuff like that. It's not all brand deals are millions of dollars, especially for someone
No,
like her. Now, if you're somebody like Angelina Jolie getting a brand deal, yeah, that's going to be way different. But
exactly.
not, you're just, you know, I wouldn't
And
even say she's a B actor. I would say she's probably like C actor, right? Like she's not big name
no,
at all.
she's known for one show on HBO that I don't watch. I don't care. I mean, I don't. I'm
Yeah,
clearly not their
I've never
demographic.
seen it.
Yeah, yeah. I've never seen it. I'm clearly not their demographic, and I have no interest in watching it. But I mean, I feel her what she's saying. I
Yeah,
feel exactly what she's saying. Like she's just trying to make it, and I don't think that anybody should be judged by that. It's like anything else. If you want to live a certain lifestyle, you have to do whatever you got to do to live that certain lifestyle.
yeah.
You know,
Especially right
um,
now, it's crazy, especially with all the stuff going around. You've got all these different viruses and diseases, and
and then a recession that's not a recession. I mean,
yeah,
so
so much.
we live in interesting times, and I mean we have people. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we don't know with the whole New York thing. Speaking of things that are going on, let's talk about New York. Right, first they get this
Mhm.
whole nuclear emergency response type. This is how you prepare for something. And then the second thing, get your to go bag ready,
Yeah,
which is like get your to go. That means have copies, have everything in there. And I don't know. Is it weird? Well,
it
could be.
is. I mean, when have they ever put out something like that ever in our lifetime?
Well, for them, I
Well,
mean maybe.
in any state, in our entire lifetime, when is the last time a PSA has gone out for nuclear disaster preparedness and then have it to go bag ready?
Not in our not for us, right?
Exactly.
But not for us. I would say maybe boomer generation for sure, right? Because it was
Yeah.
like in the middle of like the Cold War. Um,
But
so
that's
yeah,
scary,
it is
right?
scary that it's happening now. I don't know if it has anything to do with so there's a couple of natural disasters they've been expecting, right? And one of them is
Mhm.
having a tsunami hit the East Coast. So or hurricane, sorry, hurricane
Yeah.
hit the East
Oh, no,
Coast.
no, I did hear tsunami. Some there, it is the tsunami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hitting the East Coast, and also a tsunami hitting the Pacific Northwest. And then there's also, having like an earthquake in one of those fault lines. You
Oh,
know,
like California.
or there's one in the middle of the country. I can't remember where it's at. But yeah, those sorts of things. If a tsunami hitting the East Coast would be devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. Even a hurricane hitting the east, like hitting like New York City, like a hurricane, like a really bad hurricane. I can't even imagine because of the population density. It
Yeah.
would be
There's no
in
way you're getting out. The
yeah. Well,
traffic is just the traffic,
in
the amount of people, like,
how would you
nope.
evacuate that city? And I think that the whoever's probably in charge of their emergency response is probably thinking, okay, if I had to evacuate the city, how would I do it? And would I provide buses for people who don't have transportation, like kind of what they did with the um, Katrina?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
what do
don't
you
know. I
do? And
think it
even
would
then,
be
that was
so
a
hard to
disaster.
evacuate this generation of people that's on this planet right now because
Mm.
there are so many disbelievers of stuff.
Yeah, and then there's people that just don't want to leave their home, like older folks that
Yeah,
are gonna
sure.
be like, are not gonna want to leave their home. Yeah, who know? I mean, who knows what's going on? Is it a concern? I mean, possibly. I mean, are with Russia and China getting
I know.
together and
Mhm.
putting their own, what is it? Not that that
But
has anything to do their yeah, and not only the money, right? They got together and are trying to make their own currency that is
yeah,
backed by minerals, right? Not like our currency
yeah.
that's not backed up by anything, like the gold standard. Who knows? Like what's about to happen? And this whole thing with Ukraine's not getting any better. Like it's not.
Let's discuss that a little bit. Let's discuss that Vogue shoot that they just had. That's weird. You can't say that that's not weird. You're in the middle of a war and
Yeah.
you've got time for a Vogue shoot.
Yeah, that was. For me, that was not a good look. Now I saw people on TikTok that were like, "Oh, she's a queen," or they're trying, you know, here you have, so
It's
let's
weird.
talk about what's really going on, right? So you have folks, and I mean, there was people there, the people that have disabilities weren't able to leave. They have orphans that weren't able
Sure.
to be. They have people who were members of like church. I saw this like rabbi who had this older lady that she wasn't able to move, and he
Hmm.
had to stay and take, I mean, there's people that really have service, like service in their heart, for the people that stayed behind to protect
Yeah.
those folks. And when you have that level of disaster happening in your country, and yet you take the time to take some pictures
When they made like a video too, like
pictures
Vogue
in a
made
video,
like a video.
if they wanted to get their point across, they could have just followed him and just taken pictures of like, hey, look, follow
Yeah.
me for a day, I'm going to show you what's going on, took and more like journalistic, kind of
Hmm.
like what pictures that they took during Vietnam, like more
Right.
journalistic as opposed to
Like
um
photo op.
fashion
Yeah.
fashion photo op. I do find it weird. I do think it was a little tone deaf considering what's going on, and I don't know why he signed up for it, to
Well,
be honest with you.
it's not just those things. It's weird. Like
Yeah, it is weird.
you're putting yourself out there in a war zone and just to pose pretty like in some photos with some military members and with some stuff that's been, you know, blown up.
Yeah. Uh, it,
It's super weird.
People weren't happy about that for sure. It is a little weird. I think it was a little weird. That's like if I'm in the middle of an emergency, right, and stop to
You're
take
like,
a selfie. Exactly. And stop. That's like saying like for example, let's just say that the firefighters are coming out and trying to save some people in this burning building, and they stop to take a selfie.
yeah,
Like, I mean, it's just not a good look for them.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, does it matter in the grand scheme of things? I have absolutely no idea on how it's really going to impact things. I think I have no idea. I don't know. We
It
live in
is
a very
sketchy.
weird.
It definitely adds some conspiracy to, like I'm not a conspiracy over the Ukraine stuff. I do feel like there's a lot going on there that people aren't being told, but I think it's really happening. Right? Like there's a lot of people in denial right now that Russia is doing what they are to Ukraine. That
Oh
there are
yeah.
actually bombs going off and that
Hmm.
like yeah, they think all of the pictures that are being shown are fake. I don't
Hmm.
think they're fake, but I do feel like it adds conspiracy juice to it when you've got Vogue over there and you've got all these celebrities just going over there ho hum. Like it's weird.
What's truly going on? You know what?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I'm with you. I do think that there is a conflict going out there, and I don't think it's as is it. I think it's bad.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And what's funny is that we haven't seen the bad. Like, we
Yeah,
saw
no.
this Vogue
We've
photo
seen some
shoot, but
pictures. Yeah.
lately not that I've like kept up with NBC or CNBC, but I haven't really seen like real like footage of it. And I'd have, to your point, I have to go off and
Yeah.
look for it,
Some of the
purposely
really
look for
terrible things.
that are really going on. And it's so unfortunate because it's very young people that are fighting this whole, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't have words, to be honest with you. I mean, my heart breaks for the families that have to go through this. It's a very scary thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And having to leave, in some cases, all the men in the family, right? Because there was only one there. They didn't leave. Certain men you couldn't leave. I think there was an age cutoff where you couldn't leave the
I think,
country,
yeah, like 18 to 65 or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
That you had to stay. And let's just say if you have a whole bunch of sons, Can you even like
And your
fathom? And then
husband.
and your
Yeah.
husband, your four and your sons, and you're leaving with maybe like your daughter and having your heart out there, and then hoping that they protect themselves, right? Because you don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even imagine having to go. See, that's why I think I'm even tearing up thinking about it. That's why I think this whole photo shoot was tone deaf,
Yeah.
because you have people that are truly
Suffering
having
right
to
now. Yeah.
suffering and having to deal with that reality, and you're over here taking like a Vogue photo shoot.
Yeah.
Are
There's
you
this
kidding
guy
me?
that reports on TikTok. He reports like all of the news, and he's very, like, he tries to make sure he has the most factual information. And he said
Mhm.
that there's this Russian dude who literally is like castrating people and just doing like these very, very terrible things to multiple people just to torture them, right? Like at this point, Russia doesn't care about war crimes. Like they're using basically these things that blow up and rain fire down, and you're not supposed to be using them. It's a war crime. But like Russia doesn't give a shit about the war crimes. They don't care. Like they're not playing fair, and we're sitting here trying to play fair. Like what? I don't get that. Like there is no playing fair in war. Like you're sitting there trying to have rules for people who literally don't care.
No, in all complete honesty, something like that, I mean, we know, after what happened, it traumatizes people mentally.
Hmm.
Like they're not right. Like all those, there it's such a traumatic experience that I mean, to your point, I don't know what's going on. Like it's not it's covered, but it's not covered.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like if
Well,
you
in the
look at
beginning, right? Like we were being able to see people going live that were in Ukraine. Like normal people were going live on their TikToks, and you could see
yeah,
literally stuff exploding. And TikTok is fucking took all that off.
it's gone. It's gone. Like
Yeah.
look at this. Like even if you look at like what let's see what CNN has going on on their cover.
Like
So
I'm
if you go to
so
CNN,
sick of TikTok filtering stuff. Like we talked about before we started tonight. I had to make 3 videos about monkeypox and how it was spread because my first 2 videos were only sent out to like 5 and 9 people,
yeah,
and it's like, why are you trying to keep accurate information away from people just because of a, like, um what is it, like, I forget the word for it right now. My brain is like, meh. But an agenda, basically, right? Like trying to keep a certain agenda. And so they're trying to keep certain information off.
yeah.
And it's not even conspiracy information, right? Like it's literally factual information that you can look up, like on the CDC website. But they don't want that out there. There's people out there
No,
spreading misinformation, and that shit is trending.
there's all kinds of misinformation. Yeah, like there's nothing. If you look to CNN on their website on the beginning part, you're obviously seeing the floods that are going on. You hear the situation with this lady, the what is her name? The lady
Like,
who's the
oh, Grimes,
basketball the basketball player,
Griner, Griner.
Griner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her, you have the winning lottery ticket, which I didn't play, so I
I
missed my
I
chance
didn't
to be a
either.
billionaire. I missed my chance to be a billionaire. And then Alex Jones's his company files for bankruptcy amid trial to award damages to handicapped
Mhm.
families, which means that they're not getting anything.
Yep.
Um, but maybe they didn't want anything. Maybe they just
But
wanted
like,
to
who
say him.
cares about that?
Yeah,
Who cares about
yeah,
Alex
for sure.
Jones? Like, we
For
know
sure,
how
there's nothing on here.
crazy he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting. You're right. We already know how he's. Let's see what MSNBC has to say about it. No, if you look on MSNBC, you see something about an unnamed White House employee could be the pivotal January 6th is still going on.
Again, who cares?
Um, Ted Cruz can't
Like, they're
explain
not
away
gonna do
mocking
anything.
Kamala Harris. I mean, yeah,
It's all
there's nothing.
clickbait shit. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah, it's not anything. No, they're not. They're not. To your point, they're not putting stuff out there like they used to. Um,
I don't look at news like that at all.
yeah,
All the news I get is from actual people who really want to be legitimate journalists that are on TikTok.
and there are some that they've
Yeah.
totally. There's this one girl that I follow in Puerto Rico who left her position as a journalist and just does things that have to do with rights of Puerto Ricans, and and she's actually getting a lot of traction. So no, I mean nothing talking about Chicago.
Well, that's because
Um,
all those mainstream news, they have their agendas, right? Like, CNN has their agenda, Fox has their agenda, MSNBC has their agenda. I like The Hill. The Hill, so both of the people that are the broadcasters on The Hill, one of them is conservative or like kind of moderate, and the other one is a like Democrat.
mm.
So, I mean, you're getting like both sides, and they're very reasonable people. Are you familiar with The Hill? It's got,
And I'm just looking at it right now. So I just opened it up, but again, there's really nothing on what we were talking about.
yeah. No,
She
they
can't
talk
run
more
for
about
president.
stuff at Capitol Hill.
Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be bill restriction. Yeah, there's really nothing. To your point, there's nothing that is really covering it. So, I mean, I really don't know what's going on. I know the only thing I know is those pictures.
Yeah. Well, and like somebody made a comment about it's putting it out there in the forefront for people, but I'm like, that's a really poor way to do it.
There's been other ways. Okay, BBC is covering it,
Well,
and
yeah, of
and
course, because it's not U.S. news.
yeah, the BBC is covering it. So if you're looking at BBC, then you're looking at UN and Red Cross should investigate prison deaths, says Ukraine. So BBC does have it.
Russia is claiming, I don't know if you heard this, but they're claiming the reason that they're struggling right now in the war is because of these lab created soldiers that were created in Ukraine at the labs in Ukraine. I'm like, bro, you trying to say you're fighting the X-Men because you're losing? It's crazy.
You know what? I have no idea what's going on. Um, yeah, they got to read on this. I have no idea. It's just something that I have no idea.
Yeah, and I mean, are we really, no matter what we read or what we find, is it really real information?
Oh, who knows?
You know, that's
Who
that's
knows?
why I don't like that TikTok started removing all of the people that were going live that actually lived in Ukraine.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. And I should look at the Twitterverse, see if somebody's tweeting.
I don't I don't think so. I mean, Twitter has been pretty much like the economic stuff going on and pretty much all the same shit on TikTok, just a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. There's really nothing. Yeah, I haven't really kept up there. The only thing that was really out there was that whole Vogue photo shoot and how they got a lot of heat and some people were very upset about it. Then right now we're just talking about Will Smith, which is really not news. And then this whole Beyonce thing where we have this one singer, Khalees, who's upset
Oh,
that,
I heard about
yeah,
that, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I
upset that.
didn't listen to the song.
So this lady used to sing Milkshake,
Right.
and Pharrell, she used to be managed by Pharrell, and I guess was signed to his record label. And so she really wasn't. She was making it. She felt that Beyonce should have called her up and said, "Hey, it's common courtesy. I'm going to be using this song because it's not like Beyonce doesn't know her personally, because she does."
Oh,
And then so she was kind of upset that she didn't give him the common courtesy. And then two, she was really upset about Pharrell. Basically, she was saying the hypocrisy it is behind it. Basically, she was saying Beyonce has all these girl power, who runs the world, girl power, but yet she didn't have the common courtesy to call me up and say, hey, I'm going to be using your song. And then two, her issue with Pharrell was basically, look, you're always talking about how artists need to renegotiate and get their music back, yet you have my music
Mm.
and you're making money off it. And that's why you could put it on Beyonce's album, profit off it, and yet it's my song,
So
basically.
Beyonce used the Milkshake song?
Yeah, she used the beat to it.
Oh,
Like if you look at Energy, yeah, she used the beat. You can
that's
hear
weird. Why
yeah,
don't
she
just
used the
use
beat.
your own? Like,
It was really Pharrell. She really gave that heat to Pharrell. She was upset, and I get it why she would be upset, because if it's somebody that you know and that
yeah.
you have mutuals, then I would say that the expectation would be like, hey, by the way, I'm
But like
using this.
Beyonce's so big, like why don't you just make your own song? You
Because
know?
nothing's new under the sun. Like all the like even like that dance was influenced by Bob Fosse. The her dancing to the Put a Ring on It song. If you like it,
Mhm.
put a ring on it. That song, that that dancing was Bob Fosse. It's called. And so yeah, I
But
mean, there's
that's
nothing
what
new under
being
the
a
sun.
real artist is though, is creating new stuff.
But you know what? It's really not anymore. I think
But that's what it
there's
is. Like it may
yeah,
not
that's
be
what it
that, but
was.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's not like at this point I think they're in the business of she's in the business of making money. I don't think she's necessarily an innovator
no.
as much as they like to say that she is
Well, not
an
if you're taking
innovator.
somebody else's song and using it, not at all.
I mean, so producer's not necessarily an innovator. Um there's we live in a day and age where there's no more innovate, there's not any innovators anymore. Like everything, like there's people aren't, and I think that's why Gen Z is so obsessed with like the 90s and even the 80s and those things. And
That
because
explains Target's clothing.
exactly, they're obsessed.
And Walmart too. Walmart had some, do you remember the movie Clueless?
Yeah,
You know that like
yeah, I do.
little yellow plaid dress that she wore?
Yes, yes,
They
yes.
freaking
Share where
have
the
that at Walmart right now.
Yeah, because they're obsessed with it, and that's because there's really nothing. So I think so so remember
Like they
that
just want
lady.
regular clothes.
Remember that one lady, she used to sing What's Going On. She's a big time producer. I can't remember her name. I'm going to say Linda something or other. I'm horrible with names. I'm like, but she was saying basically that the music industry kind of did it to themselves in terms of creating artists that weren't necessarily artists. So, for example, so you have an artist, like you had an old artist, it was more about quantity and less about quality. So this artist could have been for right now, whereas before it was an artist that you were really like pushing, and it was going to be a long-term thing. But
Mhm.
then it became about,
Who's hot right
you know,
now?
yeah. And so now so now you have like, think about like, when is there going to be another Phil Collins?
Right.
You know, probably not. Hall and Oaks, probably not. And if you look at kind of the 90s bands, probably not.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
Nirvana, maybe you're not gonna have another Nirvana. Like, I think that's the 90s look and the 90s music. It was like these artists really innovated, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's where it comes back to actually finding artists,
Yeah,
right?
they're not
Like
finding it.
not
Yeah.
everybody's an artist. You can try to wanna be, but that
No,
doesn't make you an artist, right? Like
no, no.
Picasso, right? Look at the sculptors that used to be alive back in the day. We don't have sculptors like that now that you can make a piece of marble look like it was freaking an actual person, right?
We don't have, and maybe we're not looking hard enough. Maybe if we do, we don't have. So there was people, right? I was like noticing like intellectuals, right? Like even like Hunter S. Thompson, like
Hmm.
James Baldwin, like really Maya Angelou, these like true intellectuals that sat really well read and had these like amazing conversations with journalists. We don't have
I,
that. Like
I feel that we do though. Are you familiar
who
with
can
the
you
intellectual dark web? So like Sam
I'm not
Harris and
yeah, but I'm talking mainstream because I mean, I don't see them sitting down with 60 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think they choose not to though.
you know, it was so that at that moment in time you had, I don't know if it was Dan Rather, but you had them creating PBS specials. Like they were having true conversations with, it was more in the public eye. So even if you say we do, it's not like their
Well,
household
look at
names.
Rogan, right? Like a lot of the people that are on Rogan, you've got some very, very intellectual people that are on Rogan. They're not activists necessarily, right? Like Maya
Yeah.
Angelou was an activist,
And a writer. Yeah.
right?
Poet.
And a writer and stuff. A lot of the people that you have on Rogan, he's got a variety of all different sides. But there are quite a few intellectual people on there that he has, from talking about space to talking about literally anything and everything.
Well, I mean, he has like Neil deGrasse, Tyson. Is it nice? Is it Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Tyson.
The
Yeah, Neil
yeah,
deGrasse Tyson, yeah.
he
And
has
then
him on there talking. Now, I would say,
Mich Michikako or something like that. He's a astrophysicist or something too.
yeah. So he does have like astrophysicists on there, Neil deGrasse Tyson. But um, so I would say yes, but those are more scientists than people that are talking about like
Philosophers.
yeah, philosophers
We got Jordan
about what's going.
Peterson. I don't know about lately though. Um,
I
Peterson
don't know what's.
was really good, but lately he's been, I don't know. Like I think he got beat up so much by people verbally that he's, I don't know. Like he swung a little too hard.
He just needs to step back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think at this point, just kind of step back and just say, hey, eh, y- yeah, he needs to step back. He's been saying things that I don't necessarily agree with him
Yeah.
on some things. I do appreciate people who have those conversations because I think those conversations need to be had. But I just feel that right now you can't have those conversations because if you have those conversations, you're going to get canceled and you're going to get canceled
Yeah.
by whoever decides that what you're saying is not, I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying. But then
Yeah.
again, like to be honest, what I say today, if I get more information and learn something different, is not necessarily going to be what I think about tomorrow
Right.
for that matter,
If
you
you're
know?
a smart person, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a smart person, you take that information and you evaluate your thoughts. But a lot of people don't do that. If it doesn't align with what they thought already and they don't get confirmation bias from it, it's not what they want to hear.
Yeah. And even then, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's you, right? So sometimes your opinion
Yeah.
is formulated by the experiences that you live, and that's the opinion that you give people. But then when you sit down and have a conversation or truly analyze what the other person is saying, or have a conversation with somebody that you may have opposing views over, you may get to learn why they think the way that they do.
Yeah.
But if you're not having those conversations or even sitting at the table with that person, then you're not even going to know what it happens is, to your point, those types of conversations go further underground. And as you mentioned, what do you say, the dark web,
The intellectual dark web, yeah.
the intellectual dark
The
web, and that's where
intellectual dark
those,
web is like a group of people. Like Rogan falls into the intellectual dark web, although he isn't. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy just because he's learned a lot from different people, but I wouldn't say he's like a genius or anything. He's got quite a few geniuses I feel that he's had on the show, Um, I can't think of a couple of the people's names right now, but there's like a brother set that look almost alike that he's had on there, and they were both, I think, professors, but they pretty much got canceled. You know, they like stopped working at the college they were working at because they had different views that weren't what the college wanted.
So there's this movie by Antonio Banderas, and I'm trying to figure out what the name of the movie is because you know what? I should have like a list of what I'm going to say because trying to forget what the name of the movie is. But that's Antonio Banderas, and in this movie, he is like an amateur, almost like an amateur archaeologist. And in the amateur archaeologist, so in that movie, he's an amateur archaeologist, and so he's going and he's found these paintings on his property, and he's saying, "Hey, you know, man existed in this area at this moment in time." He went and he put that information out to the people who were studying archaeology, and they kind of like booed him out and called him that it wasn't true and all of those things. So he died, even though he had been doing all his studies, died as an outcast in the scientific community. And apparently, this is a true story. So, with that
Finding
said,
Altamira.
yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, Finding Altamira.
Spanish archaeologist and his daughter caused worldwide controversy when they discovered cave paintings that are 10,000 years old.
Yes, and they were like, we don't agree.
Yeah, well, that's going on right now, right? Like, we found stuff
Exactly.
that's way older than we thought humans were around. And they literally have found things like spark plugs from hundreds of thousands of years ago. And we've been told that people that long ago were cavemen and couldn't do anything.
Exactly. You know what? And I think that those are biases. To your point,
Oh,
it's like
of
people,
course.
yeah, people came in and saying, okay, so these
It
pyramids,
doesn't
there's
fit
no
the
way.
Bible.
Yeah, these pyramids, there's no way. The whole thing with the whole, I really don't like when people put their whole, um, they say, well, it doesn't fit with they don't know. Like it's not like
Right?
they don't know. They don't know.
It doesn't
Um,
discredit the Bible, right? Like,
exactly.
just because these things are doesn't mean that stuff that's in the Bible didn't really happen. Like Noah's Ark, we've literally found the ship that we think is Noah's Ark. And like we
Exactly.
found the city of Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff like that. So it's like not to discredit the Bible, but there are some inaccuracies of what our Bible has, right? Like when God created the heavens and earth and stuff like that.
It's
When
in
Adam and Eve were created, all
but
the
does it
things.
even but you know, honestly, does it even matter, right? In the grand scheme of what the purpose of the book is. The
I
purpose
think
of the
that
book
depends
is
on
not
who you ask,
yeah.
right?
Well, well, I don't know. I don't think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, the book is based on, you know, it's not about the timeline.
Right.
When like
Well,
I don't understand how that's
that's
important. I really don't
That's
understand
what I
how
mean.
that's
It depends on
important.
who you ask. Like,
Yeah,
are
I
you
think it's
trying to
saying
take the lessons of the Bible? Because there are certain parts of the Bible, right, that talk about making people your slave as long as they're not from your town. As long as they're from the other cities around you, you can make people your slaves. Stuff like that, right? Like, what do you want to take from the Bible? Do you want to take Jesus's teachings from the Bible, right?
yeah,
Because the Jesus teachings from the Bible teach you how to be like a good person, essentially.
yeah. They almost view things, and I heard this girl talking about how she's talking about vertical, looking at things vertically and looking at things horizontally. Like when you look at things vertically, and if it's like your morality comes from a vertical place, you see God, then you see yourself, then you see everybody else,
Mhm.
right? But then
Okay.
when you look at morality from a horizontal, you look at morality from how it impacts everybody. And that's almost how I feel about Jesus's teachings is it's looking at morality horizontally, right? Also vertically, right? But at the same time also horizontally.
Yeah.
Is my behavior going to impact everybody around me? So
Yeah.
I do find that whole interesting, but to your point, I don't necessarily agree with people that are digging their heels on, something that
Ancient
they
books.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
have
mean,
been
it's just,
translated and taken out. Like
yeah,
I forget how many books that are missing from the like Bible that the Americans have. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
I
like
think there are 15 stories that are missing.
digging in your heels on something, that is, in my opinion, inconsequential. But to your point, it's depending who you're asking, right? There's some people that may be like, no, it's,
It's
whatever.
literal. It's
It's little,
literal.
whatever, whatever,
Yeah, you
whatever,
have to take it
whatever.
literally.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you just consider who the source is. But as we're talking about that, same thing is happening. So now, to your point, people can't even, so, right, you have these theories floating around in the science community. It's a community of scientists, right? So the way you let's say you publish a book or publish a theory, then it is reviewed by your peers. So it's a peer
Hmm.
reviewed article. And if your peers agree with that, it's published. And if they don't, it may not get published. And
Right.
you may not get, support, financial, right, from institutions or whatever. So it almost behooves you to agree with everybody else. So when you have scientists that don't agree with everybody else, then it's almost like they're getting ostracized. And it's no different what happened to the Antonio Banderas character in Altamira. They were like, hey, I believe that, these are real. And they were like, no, possibly never not. And then at the end of the day, he
Yeah.
ended up having, like, truth was on his side. And it happened years, even after the guy died. I think that right now, because to your point of cancel culture, we can't even have those conversations with people.
Brett Brett Weinstein Brett Weinstein. I think his name is Weinstein. Him and his brother, um, they're the two professors that I was talking about they were professors. One of the brothers is kind of on this whole other level right now. Like he thinks he discovered like how the universe really works, and it's a really interesting theory. And he made like a visual of it too. It's like a this three-dimensional thing. It looks really
S-
interesting.
So, what I find fascinating? So, I was watching Steve-O apparently has a podcast with some other, I don't know who the other guy is, that has it. And he had some physicist on there or something. I don't even know what if it's a physicist. But what they were saying is that this gentleman's theory was that aliens weren't going to be coming from the sky like we think,
Oh
that they're going to be
yeah, I
coming in
saw that. It's
from like
us from other dimensions popping in
from
and
other
out.
dimensions.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I thought that was bizarre. I mean, when you think about it,
Yeah,
it
I mean
makes,
if we become that advanced, yeah.
well, he's saying that other civilizations, or that aliens are going to come, that it's not going to be what we think, that it's going to be people coming in from other dimensions, that it's not going to be people coming in from space. And now with all this UFO conversation happening, like, are they coming from
Yeah.
space?
Well, let
Are they
this trip
coming
you
from the
out,
ocean?
right? Like
Hmm.
us looking in space right now, right, with the James Webb telescope. So we're looking at things that literally don't exist in our time. It exists at that time, hundreds of thousands of years ago, but we're looking at it right now, right this
Hmm.
second, through the James Webb telescope. And that's the same thing for here. So if you were out there and you're looking at Earth right now, humans don't exist right now. If you're hundreds of thousands of light years away and you're looking at Earth, we don't exist right now. You're looking at dinosaurs right now,
Bizarre.
right?
Bizarre. Like it's so mind blowing when you have those conversations with people who actually study all of that. And it's like, whoa, like really, that would be, but if you have a, you
Everything
know,
exists all at once. That's what that dude was talking about. right? On Steve-O's show, like everything exists all at once in this very second.
Yeah. Beginning and in the end, right? Everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting for sure. There's just so much that we it's amazes me that for how advanced we are, right? And how
We're not
um
like
we
we think
don't
we are.
know,
Yeah, but
yeah,
we're
how
not.
advanced we think we are. We don't know where we came from. Like if we were really that advanced, we'd have like when now there's theories, right? And there's
Sure.
probabilities,
Yeah.
and but you know, I once took a class that explored that in college, and one of the things that for me made like the way my mind works, it's just like, did we evolve, right? Because there's like the theory of evolution
Right.
that or there was this Big Bang theory, but then when you look at the way the human body works and when you look at certain animals and how they work, and you're like, and then you build something like this, like there's no way this could have come from nothing, like we have
Yeah.
a cell phone, like somebody had to put this together. And then when you're looking at AI and you're thinking, okay, if we can create, you know something something that is able to track thoughts and things and all of these things and all this information, like, is it really far-fetched to think that somebody created us? Like, it's
Yeah. Well,
it's not
and
it like, I
the
think it's
Bible,
not.
right? Going back to the Bible is a story that, well, it's like a bunch of stories that were like all put together by people throughout time and not necessarily the people that wrote the stories, right? It's whoever decided, like, for instance, King James, if you're looking at the King James version, he decided what he wanted in there and what he didn't, and how it was translated and how certain words were translated, right? And so we have that version. But there are other versions that, like, looking at the Sumerian story of how life came around,
Mhm.
which is talks about like Enlil and Enki and all of those, and how basically they created humans to be their slaves because they were tired of doing the work. And so they literally used DNA splicing to create humans. And there are images that are in archaeological facts that they knew about DNA back then, of like images of the double helix and stuff in the stones, like, right, there's stone pictures that they drew and stuff like that. And so it's like, whose stories do we pick?
I don't know,
You
because it
know?
was all oral history, right? Didn't we
Yeah.
have this conversation about
Well,
oral
kind of.
history?
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
kind
did.
of oral history. It's literally
Yeah, if you
engraved
think
in stone and cuneiform.
yeah. Yeah, but when you talk about the Bible, right, and you talk about oral history, so it's not so far-fetched that this oral history was passed down to generation, generation, generation. And I think
Well,
we
a lot of
talked
those
about that.
stories were found, like
Yeah.
literally written on papyrus from some of these people, like, um what are they called? I can't freaking think of the names, but they were literally found inside pottery in like a cave. Some of the stories,
Mhm.
the scrolls, the
Dead Sea Scrolls.
yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff. I mean, those are legitimate documents, right? Like,
Yeah.
those aren't stories; they were legitimate documents.
Yeah.
So, and a
So
lot
it's
of the Dead Sea Scrolls are not in the Bible.
yeah, they're not. And I haven't even read them, to be honest with you, to know
Those have to
what
do
they
with
say.
like Thoth and Inky and Enlil and stuff like that as
Mhm.
well. So, and I think it was Thoth. He said that he had written like thousands of documents, but we only found like those ones in those pottery.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally, yeah, the whole it's interesting what they're doing. Definitely. Or have you seen that those ladies that they found some ancient seeds? I think it was like ancient date seeds and they actually germinated them.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's also, I think it was a whole documentary on it. I mean, they're finding some really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then talking about finding stuff, Lake Mead, oh my goodness. They're finding like all these, they
With
found what, three
psychedelics in it.
bodies? Oh, three bodies? Did they find out who they were?
Oh, lake mead. I thought you meant
No,
actual mead, like the drinking
no,
kind.
no, 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 Lake
Yeah,
Mead.
lake mead. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
they found some beer that had psychedelics in it.
Oh
And
my goodness.
and that so it actually has to do with like the wine that Jesus was giving people
Oh, yeah.
having
Interesting.
psychedelics in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting theory. But I was referring to Lake Mead
Lake
in
mead.
Nevada.
Yeah,
I was referring to Lake Mead in Nevada about all those like
the
bodies
mob.
that they're finding because of the water receding. And I wonder what else they're gonna find down there, because of the water receding.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I always think about stuff like that with the different waterways, right? Like look at Lake Louisville, for instance. Like if Lake Louisville ever dried up, like the crazy stuff that we would find in Lake Louisville.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, lakes turn over. So sometimes in the fall, like when the temperature changes, they turn over. Sometimes those bodies that were at the bottom rise up.
Hmm.
So I always
I
thought
had
that
no
that was
idea.
interesting. Yeah, they turn over. It's kind of weird.
What does that mean? They turn over? Like what? The soil moves or what?
No, no. Let's talk. I got. At some point I read the science behind it. Turnover of lakes. Let me look at it. So it's called seasonal turnover of lakes. So what do they do? Simply put, lake turnover is a seasonal mixing of the entire water column. For many lakes deeper than 20 feet, distinct thermal stratified layers of water from during the summer. These layers prevent the lake from mixing and aerating. So,
So does
so
somebody
yeah,
do it or the lake does it?
I think it's done naturally.
It's crazy.
During the process, the bottom layer of the water starts shifting to the top, hence the term turning over.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's like lake turnover.
How does that work?
It's weird. It's yeah, I mean, there's a soul science behind it. So yeah, they call fall turnover, physical look at lakes. I mean, there's a lot of research done
I'm
on
gonna have
it.
to look at that.
You have to
I'm
look it up.
like, how does that work? How does the lake just go, okay, I'm gonna flip my layers now?
Here it is. How and why lakes stratify and turn over. We explain the science. So there's a whole thing. So I knew that happens. I just don't know the science behind it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like
It's
I'm gonna have to look
called
at that. That's
thermal
interesting.
stratification, when the lakes
Hmm.
divide into different layers of density due to differing temperatures.
Mhm. Oh, okay, okay. Due to different temperatures. So as the temperature changes on the outside, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's thermal stratification. But so yeah, that was that. But yeah, there's this whole science behind it. But yeah, it was just crazy that they found those poor folks. I mean, hopefully their families get closure, because that's what you really want to happen.
Yeah.
At the very least, when people are missing, is at the very least they find closure to them. I don't know. All right, Michelle, I think it's about that time.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
subscribe if you want to know whenever we drop each episode, and have a good night and a great week.
Good night. Good night. Great week.